What's poppin', everybody, and welcome back to the channel. So today we're going to talk about pro paint versus student grade paint. What's the good one? Like, what do you know? Like, how do you know when you go into Michael's? You never really know what paint to buy. You know what I mean? So today I'm going to clear that up. I'm going to go through all of my paint supplies, and we're going to talk about what's good to buy, what's not good to buy, yada yada yada. And make sure you guys stay to the end, okay? Because we're going to do a short demo on the differences between pro paint and student grade paint. Make sure you give a girl a thumbs up. So let's get it. Okay, you guys. So these are my two favorite paints. Golden acrylic paints and Liquitex Basics, you guys. But let me take some time to go ahead and introduce myself in case you guys are new around here. My name is Danielle. I'm the artist behind Creative Girl of Color. And I hope you love this sort of content. Go ahead and subscribe and don't forget to hit the bell for all notifications. So let's get into today's video where we're going to do a full thing. So Liquitex Basics is a student grade paint, and I really love it because it's affordable, it has great color selection, and it is accessible to everyone. And then there's Golden. Golden is a pro artist grade paint. Has specialty colors, it's archival, and it has pure pigments. Okay, you guys, so I wanted to demonstrate to you the differences in real time a little bit. I broke them down in a chart in two different categories, Liquitex and Golden Pro paints, and I put them, section them off in four identical colors, right? Meaning I'm gonna put out some whites, reds, and you can see I already have it laid out here to the right. I'm going to put out white, red, black, and yellow. These tend to be the most like problematic colors, no matter what brand that you get. In particular, yellows seem to be really transparent. But as you can see the differences in the colors right here, right? These are the golden paints, right? It's a lot thicker, a lot thicker consistency. It's heavy body. They all come in heavy body, unless you get a golden. Unless you get like a golden. It's a golden brand. It's called Golden Open, where it stays like wet for a long time. Probably you get an extra 30 to 40 minutes of working time when it comes to acrylics, especially for those of us that have a hard time blending and stuff like that, which I don't have these on my palette today. So right now we're just working with Liquitex Basic, which these are soft body. They're not heavy body, but they're like a softer, creamier consistency. And then they recently came out, you guys, with a neon paint. Here's the neon line that they just came out with. Golden does not have a neon line. They do have a neon line, but they only have certain colors. They have like probably, I don't know, I think I've seen like a blue, maybe a yellow or something like that. But Liquitex Basics actually came out with a whole line of neon colors. I think I've seen the pink, which I love pink. You guys know I love pink. So like it's right at my alley, and you know I had to get the pink. They have a pink, neon pink, blue, yellow, and I think like a turquoisey type of color and stuff like that. So anyway, let's get started. I'm going to start whatever color I have right here, which is white. But I'm going to put the other three colors that are right here below. So let me speed. So I decided to speed you guys up, and I started to pop my colors in. Reds, yellows, blacks. I added a little bit of a neon pink to the white so it's not bouncing off that white paper like that. And just so you can see what it would look like if you add white to the neon anyway. And I'm just going back and forth between the different brands. And you can kind of start to see these things develop. Okay, so right off the back, you could tell that the major differences, right? Um, this is still a little bit wet, but you can tell the major league differences, you guys. Okay, as you can see from these colors on the left, which is all Liquitex Basics, which is a student grade paint. And I went over the different properties of student grade versus pro already. This is more washed out, right? You can see that it dries. As it dries, it starts to become really matte. And even though we are using paper in this particular instance, which tends to dry out the paints a lot quicker, you could tell that even though it tends to be Liquitex Basics is a pretty good product and it's really pigmented, it does tend to dry really matte, kind of chalky, because it has more fillers, you guys, right? And it's less pigmented, but it's still pretty good. Okay, you can see our yellows and stuff like that. Now, I'm still not done with the demo. I'm gonna go back on top with these same colors, white, to see how does white, right? How does white cover these different colors like yellow, black, red, black, and yellow? How does white cover that? How does red cover these colors? How do you know what I'm saying? So on and so on. Now let's take a look at our golden paints. As you can see, our golden paints are highly pigmented. I mean, you could barely see where the paper ends and where it begins. It's pigmented. It's very rich. You can see as it dries. Even when it dries really glossy, right? And not high gloss, but it has like a richness and a gloss to it. Okay, versus the Liquitex is more chalky, and it dries out, as more flat, more matte. You know what I'm saying? But they still, Liquitex again is still a pretty good paint. But then you have your pro over here, which is a great thing, especially if once you get into, you want to start selling your art. This is definitely a great beginner started thing out. But once you start selling your pieces, or you're doing galleries, or you have commissions, or you're giving things to people that are collectors and stuff like that, you definitely want to get into these pro paints because they're much more pigmented, they last longer, and of course they archival, yada yada yada, right? Okay, so let's get back into it and see how these things cover up, all right, underneath. That's the real test, is finding out how they cover up. So let's pop you back in the time lapse. Okay, so as you can see, I'm kind of putting white over the top, at the top row, then I'm going over with the red and black, and then finally yellow at the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing on the other side with the golden paints, just to see how much coverage you get on both sides of the aisle, and so you can have something to compare at the end of the day, you guys. Okay, so we're all done, right? So let's look at our end result. And they are neck and neck, I tell you that, which I happen to be really surprised about, because I'm doing this for the first time right along with you guys, and I'm pretty surprised about that. But I mean, the Liquitex Basics, one coat of white, like, when you try to cover things up with paint, say you don't like something, you wait till it dries, you go back on top. And this is the result of that, okay, you guys. As you can see, the Liquitex Basics, the white, is pretty transparent, right? So let me get close up for you guys. It's pretty transparent, and I would say because it's not as pigmented, right? It doesn't have the same binders. It has a lot of fillers. And it's going to take you quite a few coats if you want to cover something up with white if you're using a student grade paint, or it's going to be even probably worse if you're using a craft paint, because craft paint is almost all filler, very little pigment, right? So, but it's not always about that, you know. It's not, again, it's not about the art, like, project that you, it's not about the art material. It's about you as a person, what you're creating, and the magic that you're bringing to the world. But if these type of things are important to you and you want to have good quality stuff, these are the things that I want to think about. I want you guys to really think about. So the white, you know, it holds up, but you would have to go in with quite a few coats of white if you're using the strictly Liquitex Basics. Now Liquitex Basics has a pro line, which I'm not doing any review on today. This is just its regular basic line, soft body basics. Now, the red. Okay, you can see the red is very transparent. Now, red on its own is really transparent as it is, but this in particular is really transparent. The red for Liquitex Basics is very transparent. So, yeah, that's all I got to say about that. The black, I mean, Mars Black is pretty good in their Liquitex Basics line. Is really, it seems to be pretty good. So, I mean, you can't really beat it too much. It seemed to cover up pretty well. But of course, these dry matte, again, the yellow seems to cover pretty well on the white. But as you can see, it's really, really transparent. Now, pro tip, yellow tends to get along way better when you add white to it, okay? So you should always be adding a little hint of white in things when you're going to be using yellow, no matter what brand. You can see, but it didn't really cover on all the colors. You know, the reds and the blacks, it wasn't covering at all. Now, if I would have added a little white to that, right? So let's check. Let's do a little experiment with that. If I add a little white to it, the yellow, what will I get, right? And you can see my golden is already drying up on me. Now, if I add a little white to this, what will be my result if I add white, right? Will I be able to cover this up? Will it be better? You know what I'm saying? Will it be a better situationship? See, now you can see it's a little better if you add a little white to it, but you're still going to have to go back on with some additional coats if you want to be able to cover these, especially these dark colors up. You can see it's still pretty transparent, so you would definitely have to go back in with an additional coat. Now, let's go to the golden, okay? Golden. Okay, so the golden is, of course, that coverage is way better. You can see the difference, and this is where the little nuances come in. This is when you really see your bang for your buck, where this is a way. Now, I would even suggest that you guys you could actually invest in the basic primary colors for a student grade paint and get a pro white paint like a golden or a Holbein or something like that, and you can get some really good coverage. You always going to use white. White is always a color that goes fastest in when you're dealing with a painting and stuff like that. So you get really good coverage. I mean, it almost completely covers it, as you can see. You know what I'm saying? The red, the same thing. Like this completely covered it. Ooh, we got some black in it. You get a lot more kind of coverage on this red versus the other red in Liquitex. You get a lot more coverage, right? And you just get better coverage all the way around the board. I mean, the black totally obliterates any color it comes in contact with on both sides, but this one is definitely more heavily pigmented. The same thing with the yellow, but I'm actually using a different yellow, which it doesn't really matter which yellow you use. They all tend to be transparent, and you should always be adding a little white to it. I actually had to add a little white to this one, and it's doing a lot better. You can see how weak the yellow is in the Liquitex Basics. It's just real. It just needs help. You know what I'm saying? It really needs help. Okay. So yeah. But this one, the yellows is it's just gorgeous. It's just a way better thing, you guys. But yeah. So anywho, you guys. Oh, let me show you the fluorescent color, and yeah, the fluorescent color. But of course, this is Liquitex Basics, our fluorescent color, which is really pretty, but I don't like the fact that it dries really chalky. Okay, but again, it's kind of in line with their whole line of paints, right? Their whole line of paints is really chalky. I think they was kind of rushing when they thought of this when they thought of this. And they was like, oh, let me go ahead and just jump on the bandwagon and make some, some neon paints like everybody else, because I want to jump on the bandwagon. I want to get this moolah, you know what I'm saying? But it's a pretty color. You get a lot of good coverage, but I don't like the fact that it dries really chalky, really messy. It looks like kind of like a cheap watercolor, but it's a beautiful color. And if you happen to use it, I have used it on my paintings. I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think it's a bad paint. I have used it on my paintings. Once you varnish it, it's good to go. Like, I wouldn't even be bothered. I wouldn't even have a qualm with recommending that you guys get the neon paints. You know what I'm saying? So yeah. Anywho, you guys. Alright, you guys, and that's all we have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed it. And remember that the best art supply is the art supply that you have right next to you, guys. It's not about what it costs and all of that stuff. It's about you putting your heart and your soul into your art and doing the best that you can each and every day. Because at the end of the day, art is supposed to be fun, right? So I love you guys so, so much. And I'll catch you on the next one. Bye.